This is Brad of Brad 3D, and we're going to do a little Fusion tutorial on how to make a holiday light show prop from scratch and take you through the entire process from idea to design to 3D modeling it here in Fusion to 3D printing it all the way through taking that, putting pixels in it, setting it up in xLights, and actually programming it with custom models and sequencing it and putting it out in a show. It is a late evening here in December, and my show's running outside. This is a question I posited over in the Holiday Light Show 3D Printing Facebook group, and it seemed like people were interested in this concept. So here we go. So first off, by popular vote, it sounds like we're going to make a spinner. I let people vote on what should we make and how. So one important thing is I like to work in the top view and extrude up from there. So I'm actually just going to make a new sketch here in the top view. Another request we had was to try to keep this to the size people could print on pretty popular consumer printers, which means I'm going to try to keep this under 220 millimeters, which is when I go to create my rectangle, I can do a center rectangle. There we go. Haha. There's always a way. Now, I'm kind of showing you the ins and outs of, see, look at that. Now I've got 220 millimeter space, nice and centered. I'm going to rename this and say max size. I'm just going to leave this its own sketch. This is not a sketch I'm actually going to work out of or extrude from, but it gives me an idea of where I need to stay inside of as I work. Our actual sketch we're going to work from, I'm going to make it, turn it off for 1 sec, make a new one on the same plane. There we go. Now we have our old one there from working. So the popular request was to do a spinner, and I'm going to do my take on a spinner. I don't know if other people have already made spinners like this one. I'm going to have a kind of curved spinner, and we're going to kind of see where this goes, because I'm literally making this kind of up as I go along. So, for example, if we wanted this thing to be an 8-inch spinner, we see that 8 inches does indeed fit inside of our 220 maximum size. So this should be printable by nice folks that are running Ender printers. We're going to call this our base. I like to name my sketches. Makes it easy to find things later. And indeed, that ends up being 203.2 because we had specified it in inches. One of the cooler things you can do here in Fusion is just alternate between metric and imperial depending on how your brain is thinking at that moment. So we know this is going to fit pretty well. I know I'm going to actually want to do a border where I kind of extrude up because it's kind of a signature thing I do on a lot of my props. So I'm going to come in and say I'm going to go, let's try minus 10 millimeters. That's going to be too much. Let's do about a 5 millimeter lip. Okay, so all I did there is I just grabbed the offset tool and grabbed that edge and then said come in 5 millimeters. So now I know that I'm going to have a 5 millimeter lip to work with as I go through things right there. Now, you might be wondering, well, how big actually are pixels? So the answer to that is when I'm doing them, they are 13.2. So normally you could just type in 13.2 and say, okay, well, that's the size of a pixel, but that's actually not the right way to do it in Fusion. I'll show you why later. But the main thing is what I love to do is I go modify, change parameters, user parameter. We're going to call this pixel hole size. We're going to say 13.2. Why 13.2? Well, 13.2 is I printed out a whole bunch of different props at different hole sizes ranging from 12.9 up to 13.5, and 13.2 was the size that fit my pixels that I have the best. So now if I take this and I say pixel hole size right here, that hole now permanently is set to the size from that parameter. The reason that's important is that let's say later you buy new pixels or you buy other things that have a different size. You can just come into this reopen this model file much later, reopen it and say, oh, my stuff now actually needs 13.1. And hit enter and you see that the size actually changes, or change it dramatically so you can see it there. It's super handy, and you'll see me using this feature, the parameters, a whole bunch because it's going to save so much time later. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to add an extra one right now, which is pixel hole border. I'm going to say 18 millimeters because that's the thickness I like to have as a border around my pixel holes. We're also going to do a whole, let's see, a good name for these would probably be tabs. And these are typically in width, and we say 2 millimeters because I like to have 2 millimeter tabs. I'll show you, we'll put those in a moment, or in a little bit, whenever I get there. So, we know we want one right here in the middle, and ooh, it says, hey, I haven't saved. So, always a good idea. We're going to save this model, and we're going to call this Herman Spinner. Sure, new name for it, it's called that. And if I go, you see I accidentally deleted it there. I click on this, and click Modify, click Move. And you can see that, oh, it doesn't move around. Well, it's because things get constrained. So I'm going to select that. We're going to unfix it. So now see how it changed color? It's got a greenish color. Turn that max size off so you don't see it. Well, that means now I should be able to select that, Modify Move. I'm on you. Nope. That's Fusion for you sometimes. So, you know, maybe you can leave a note in the comment about what I did wrong there. You know, somebody will tell me. I'm sure. It's the internet. Somebody always tells you when you're wrong. But the point is, you'll see as I make more holes and more pixels around, it'll be easier. All right. I want to see if we can fit, well, let's see if we can fit 50. If we can't fit 50, we'll drop down to 25 pixels. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my first, since we know that hole for our pixel hole size here gets us to right there. It means if they would run into each other, we don't want that. Actually, we're going to do pixel border size here. There we go. We're going to use that as our edge, and we're going to create another circle. I'll show you why here in a second. I'm going to create another diameter circle. I'm just going to put this one arbitrarily about there. We're going to say hole, pixel hole size. Great. And we create another one based off of it that is border size. So that's going to be the size of our pixel hole border. And then we're going to create another one on the inside. It's going to be just a little bit shorter than what we're actually going to do. I'm going to hit Tab. Oh, sorry. I just make it first. Then I select it. Right. This way to do this. Let's see. Measure. There we go. So now we have an exposed thing. So I use the measure tool to get an exposed control. And I'm going to select my inner hole, which is the 13.2, and we're going to say -1. So what that means is give me this one minus 1 millimeter. Could I have used the offset? Yes, but this is just a different way to do it. And in this case, actually, I want to do, yeah, I do want to do 1 millimeter. So now we have a set of these. These ones should actually be nice and movable around if I select them. Cool, because they're not constrained anywhere yet. Perfect. So, I don't know, fitting 5 up through there is going to be a little bit tough, but we'll see if we can do it. If we do 5 here and then do 10 around, that would give us 50, but we wouldn't have one in the center. And that's okay, I think, for the nature of this. At least the nature of this tutorial, anyway. This is going to be a super dense pixel prop. Alright, so next thing I tend to do is we're going to actually turn this bit here actually into the tabs I had talked about. The way we're going to do that is I'm going to pick a line and click, click. So now it's bisected this piece in half. So we have those. And then I'm going to make another line. Let's see, I'll use that. It's going to go and be the same length, but we're going to go and cross them and be a certain distance and watch. So now we're going to go here, And we're going to make sure we go and actually go through it. So I intentionally missed, and I'll show you why. Because I can take this line and say that it is coincident with that point. Yoink. So now that line goes through that point. The reason that's cool is, hey, look, we have these two handy tabs. In this case, we're going to do that again, but actually, we're going to go take this line and this line, and we're going to go to a circular pattern for them, and we'll pick our center point here, and you can pick and say, how many times do you want? If you say 2, or 3, you end up getting 3 sets of tabs. There we go. So now when we go to extrude these later, we just extrude out these little tabs along with that, and that will give you a perfect pixel holder. Cool, right? All right, now that we know that we have that, we're going to take this, and we're going to go to the Create tool again, and we're going to go to Rectangular Pattern, and we're just going to go up this way, and we know we want 5. We can fit them anyway. So the answer is, can we fit 5 pixels in here? And the answer is, yeah, it looks like we can. What's interesting is I'm probably going to end up moving this one down a little bit, my source one down, to give us a little bit more space in our very tight printable, this is almost going to be a circular matrix at this point. But we know we can't get too much closer, because if we bump into this, the pixels will hit each other, which is obviously not ideal. But it looks like we'll get a lot in there, which is cool. The other thing we're going to do, so let's take a look at that. Let's grab this. Let's go modify and move. We'll drag that down. Now, we don't know for sure we can actually go around at that edge, so let's take a look at that issue for next. Alright, make sure we can still move, that we didn't accidentally constrain that. We did not. Good. Alright, we'll select. Selections in Fusion can be fun sometimes. There we go, that. And we will go create circular pattern again. And we're going to select the point in the middle this time and say that we want to do 5. Cool. So if we do 5, each one of these is going to shoot straight out, and that will be 50 pixels. So we know we can do that, but what you notice is we're going to be straight up through here and straight up through here, which means we'll actually have a sizable gap right there. What that means to me is that, hey, we can actually do something a little bit more creative here. We don't have to go straight up without these spinners. And if we're 3D printing this, we can do whatever we want. We can be crazy. We could actually go forward and then curve it around, as long as we're not inside basically this line up here and this line up here. Well, okay, how do we figure all that out? Since we know the direction all these things go, if we do this one down this time instead, go here, create, circular pattern, center point, pick our point there, go back to 5. Cool, now we got our wedge up top, so we know where we're working. So now we know we have this whole area to play with in terms of where we're going to put our pixels. Because this is 8 inches and 5 pixels, it would be almost impossible for us to actually put 2 of these that are more than 3 inches apart when it comes to the design part of wiring. And in fact, we're actually going to zigzag these back and forth. So we really want to keep them within 1.5 inches. So, and we'll measure and double check, but we should be pretty easy to keep these looking good and feeling good. Now, I'm going to use the spline tool actually to make this look nice and clean. Actually, I'll use arc. We'll use an arc with a 3-point arc. So if we know we're going to start with our first pixel right there, and we know we're going to end with our last pixel, let's say, kind of here-ish, we can go that way maybe. We can go up through here. So it'd be like our second one would be like there, up to there. It gives us a pretty good arc. Nah, let's try something a little cooler. Let's go with let's do a fit point spline. That'll look nice. And we can move these points later. And, you know, the goal of this tutorial is not just to show, like, here's exactly how you do everything. It's to show you that there's a process. Like, how do I approach these problems? So I've clicked those points out, hitting enter, and show you that, you know, don't be afraid to just play. You know, this is meant to all be fun, and you can just make something unique that's yours. Like, I asked the group, what should I make? And the answer came back spinner, and I haven't ever made a spinner before, so I had to go look up like how people are making those and what kind of common designs are. And the reason I looked for common designs is I want to make something different, something kind of uniquely me. So this feels like we're getting kind of there, I think, with the curvature I want. And then we'll have, you know, 5 of those around. Yeah, I think that's going to look pretty cool. All right. So now we're going to go back and do is we're going to go and select our curves. There we go. Unselect everything and then rectangle select. And then just unclick stuff we don't want to accidentally copy. And yes, as I said before, Fusion really likes to select stuff. Cool. Pretty sure we got all the right stuff. All right. Now we're going to go modify, move and copy. We're going to copy that object. Cool. So sometimes with Fusion, the best way is to open up Move and Copy first, then select the things and select the curve profiles that you want to copy, and make sure that Create Copy is on. And that way everything is going to be all copacetic and happy when we actually get to things going. All right, so there's our first one. There is our second one. Sure, call it that. I'm going to put it kind of on the line. There are other tools that are very nice at laying out things along splines and things like that. It's not really something Fusion's great at. Illustrator, that's easy to do that kind of stuff. Adobe Illustrator. But also it's very easy in Adobe Illustrator to make things that are impossible to 3D print. It's also very easy in Illustrator to not really have your scales to what you want them to be for work in here. So hence the reason I recommend where possible. You can bring in illustrations and kind of scale them in here, but once you want to try to get into the nitty-gritty of actually making something that you're going to want to 3D print and manufacture, it's really where you want to be careful and actually get stuff together. Okay, 3, we'll go 4, and then we'll go 5. I'll probably move that a little out a little more. Yeah, that's good. All right, let's go modify, move and copy again. I swear we're almost there. And I mean, you know, we've been doing this for, I don't know, stopwatch, however long the video is. Look down at the bottom and tell me how long I've been watching or something. I don't know, like, subscribe, all those things. All right, I must have clicked something that did not like from move copy. It's just the nature of Fusion sometimes. Guys, you hear me say that a lot. You know, there's things about the software I absolutely love. There's things about the software that are a little frustrating sometimes. But it is, for this kind of stuff, for 3D printing manufacturing, so much easier to work with the final results than it is out of other, like, content creation software. So if you're coming from, you know, looking at things like Blender and Maya or Houdini, you know, amazing pieces of software for what they're made for, but they're not CAD. And they're not things that are designed for, you know, 3D manufacturing of things. You know, before we were looking at the nice, easy layout tool that did 5. We just typed in 5 and we had them. But here we're trying to lay them out along a spline. And I mean, there might be a way to lay them out along the spline in here in Fusion, but I haven't found it yet. All right, so we've got our curve. One more to go. All right, we're going to go here to move copy one more time. And by the way, since I still set these all up with expressions, with those change parameters, if I were to change these and change the length of some of those parameters, these would all change. Even though I've been copying and pasting them, all those expressions hang around. So it makes our life a lot easier. Move copy, select the thing first time, create copy. There we go. And yes, I probably could edit this video down to like 10 minutes and make it look like I really know what I'm doing. But that wouldn't give you an accurate view of what it's like to actually try and make something here. Huh. Why did it discontinue OK? I don't know. We still have an OK now. Okay, that's good. Yep. Yep. Let's see what I selected, or if I do it again. That worked. Cool. I'll take it. Yep. Nope. Let's just save again. Always a good idea to save. Alright, let's try this one more time. Really should only be a couple of curves we have to select to make all that. And already? It's already given me flack over not wanting to copy? Well, let's just copy one that we know that worked before and hope that we didn't break something worse later. We'll find out when we go to 3D print it. Or extrude it, really. Move copy. You figure the move copy command would be easy, right? Like you would think that this would be the command that would be as simple as possible in order to just, I want more of these things. But, you know, nope, still can't select it. I'm clearly doing something wrong. Let's try and click create copy now. Got those, got that one. 2 more to select, let's see. Hey! Ooh. Let's see, this may end on a crash and end this entire tutorial video. Alright, we're back from the crash, and I'm gonna go ahead and set up to copy and paste one more of these guys. And we're going to go here. Nope, trim. We just want to do move and copy. Select the first bit there. We're going to select, say, we're going to create copy. I'm going to select the other pieces of it here. Alright, we're going to go, or not. Alright, we're back for our little crash here, and we're just going to copy this guy one more time up here to the end point. Now, realize if we put that on the end of our point here, we would not be quite inside of our working area. So we're going to put that here, about the edge of our kind of work area there. And then I think I'll move that one in a little bit cosmetically, but I think we're getting pretty close here. At least close to something I like. Okay. Modify and move. We'll just slide that one there. Cool. I think it's going to create some nice, very fast motion when we get these all together. Alright, so now that we have all of those put together, we're going to duplicate them all. The way we do that is we're going to select them all. Like that. We're going to save our project because it's always a good idea. We're going to make sure we have these, and we're going to turn off the selection of that curve because we don't really need that. Alright, so we've got all those selected, and now we're going to go here, and we're going to go to circular pattern, and we're going to select our center point. We're going to say we want 5 of these. Look at that. That's looking good. Now, one thing you notice is that if we were to just extrude this as is, these pixels would either be floating in space or we'll have a solid disk. And these will just be popping through the solid disk, which actually I think could look pretty cool. Normally I would like do like a thinner piece and let the wind go through, but having these actually all light up the shape as it goes around is pretty fun. Although maybe we actually might do some counter holes through these as a separate piece. Let's take a look. Let's hit OK first. Alright, so now we actually have all those places. Cool. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit OK and finish my sketch. Zoom out and look at this. I'm going to go and turn our layout grid back on so you can see what we're working with. And I'm going to select and extrude this guy up about 5 millimeters. Usually what I typically use. Not bad. We're going to turn our sketch back on, because as soon as you extrude anything off a sketch, it immediately hides it. We're going to turn our sketch back on, because we actually have more things from this original sketch to extrude. Make sure we only are selecting the planes. There we go. And we're going to extrude that lip up 10 millimeters. The reasoning is I like things to have a nice shadow border. So we're going to put the pixel in, but it's going to light up that edge, but then we won't have a lot of spill light onto the area around. One thing you also notice is that, well, how are we going to hang or put this anywhere? Now, a lot of people like to have a mounting system behind. I actually like to build in mountings, so we're going to do that a little bit later. We're going to put like a little optional mounting piece up here so you see how that kind of works. But first, let's just say that we like the solid look here. And if you notice up close, I'm going to realize that, oh look, even though I've already extruded this up, I realized I made a mistake. I didn't actually select these inner ones, which I should have on all my pixels. Well, here's the cool part with Fusion. You can not only rewind, you can double click on that original one. I'm going to hold down Command Shift here. And we'll turn off that. I'll go to an angle. And you can actually start selecting the other faces that you wanted to extrude. There we go. It's easier from the bottom sometimes. Oh, there's no problem. I have my, it was trying to extrude the profile plane of the 3D print bed, which is not what we're looking for, obviously. There we go. So here from the bottom, I can now go in and select the inner rings as well. Let's make sure we get them all. And then we'll go in and select the tabs actually on our next extrude, so we have those. You'll see this first one where we drew that curve, we actually have the curve that bisects our sketch. And if you've hung out with me this far, hopefully you've learned a thing or two about what to do, what not to do in Fusion. I do appreciate it. Like, subscribe, maybe I'll make more content. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see. Cool. So now, if I turn off my sketches, now we have our corkscrew 50 pixel spinner, although actually we should probably fill that center hole in. Let's turn that sketch back on, because technically that's actually not meant to be empty. We have our base sketch back on. We'll select those. We could leave that empty. We could also make that like a neat hole option. But in this case, I'm actually just going to fill it for now because it is what I think visually is going to work. Looks like I accidentally selected on these guys all the insides, which was not intentional. If you do that, unselecting them is unfortunately a little bit more of a pain. It's not too bad, but it's not. I'm holding down Command Shift right now as I select to try to unselect the faces there. We're gonna actually I want to make sure we get the outer rings too. Yeah, lots of little fiddly bits to clean up. And sure, is there probably a better way? Yeah. Do I know what that is off the top of my head? But that's okay. This is a fun process for me. It's like Zen. Alright, got that one. Last one like this. So all I'm doing is selecting all of the faces that I didn't mean to actually have as part of the cutting geometry and getting rid of them. Almost there, just a few left. Cool. Okay. These finally, check them all. That's what they're supposed to look like, according to me right now. Did I really? Didn't I? Apparently I screwed up there too. Okay. I'm just going to drag select over those whole spots, and then I will go in and select that one edge back in. Yeah, that's a much faster way to do this. So hopefully you enjoyed watching me do it the painful way. Cool. Much better. Alright, so we've now done really just a couple of sketches and 2 big extrude options. Well, we're going to do one more extrude. This one is unfortunately a bit slow and a bit painful. And there are other ways to approach this, including replicating and rotating through the features, which is a more complicated way to do it. But for the sake of this kind of tutorial and piece here, I'm going to do it this way, which is I'm going to turn off the bodies first, and then I'm just going to literally go in and just select the tabs. Now, that's 6 tabs. You don't actually need 6 tabs to keep these in. 3 will do you, generally. 4 can be good too. I'll leave it up to your discretion. I'm going to choose to do 3 on these guys. Test with your 3D printer. Test with the design. Come up with your own way to do them. There's no right or wrong way to really do these. They are, I mean, there's a wrong way. If you can't get the pixels in, that's wrong. If the tabs are ripping at your pixels, that's also wrong. So I'll clarify. There's definitely a wrong way to do them, but there's a lot of right ways. And I would say I'm always in the process of still figuring out what a new right way is. And then I usually extrude them between 1 and 2 millimeters. It depends. I make judgment calls on that depending on the model. This one we'll take a look and see. Almost there. And for any of you who are fusion experts out there and see all of these things all blue, like nothing constrained and not, all nicely parameterized, yeah, I know. But this is a very freeform piece of artwork and less something that needs to be that level of precision or prepped for milling. So you might say, is this really the best way to do this? Couldn't I, just go buy one of these? The answer is yes, you could buy one of these. But this is also one of the better ways to do this because you have the flexibility. You want your design to be different, you want to tweak it, you want to come up with something brand new. Just do it. I mean, this idea, we're probably somewhere in the neighborhood of half an hour, 40 minutes into this video. Not exactly sure. And we're almost done. At least done enough to print it, done enough to have a version of it, see if we like it. The layouts will take a little longer, but there we go. We're going to turn our model body back on here, and we're going to say 2 millimeters and hit enter. And now if we hide our sketches and take a look, we now have jumped those up. So actually, yeah, those should only be, I believe, 1 millimeter. I have my calipers out in front of me when I'm doing this. But yeah, that looks better. Yep, 1 millimeter should do it. And then I might actually end up doing some nice fillets around the edges of these, something that they'll just look a little more decorative and pretty. But I like my designs to be nice. So if we do those fillets here, if we do those at 3 millimeters, when you pull these through, they'll just kind of roll the light off them a little bit nicer. I can show you a neat trick. Let's see if this runs. We're going to select that, and then we're going to go to Create, and it is under a pattern, circular pattern. So we've selected our features instead of a part. So these are the feature we just changed. Now I'm going to turn my sketch back on, and we're going to pick our axis as this green one right here. And if we say 5, the compute mode here is going to be adjust by trying to figure it out. Now we hit OK. It's worth a shot. Compute failed. Nope. It wasn't quite close enough. Sometimes you can get Fusion to actually duplicate those pieces for you. I have had it work. Let's try circular pattern axis. Our axis point again, 5. And we want to do features. Features? Yeah, features. I'll try one more time. No, axis is just there. Objects. Okay, and it looks like that should. Now if we suppress some warnings. Hey, there we go. Look at that. So now what's cool is if we were to go back here and say that these are 5 millimeter. Oh, that's too much. They probably bump into each other. That is probably why. Fine, let's make them smaller at 1 millimeter. They all become 1 millimeter. We're going to say, go back to the 3 because I thought the 3 looked nice. So now we have our spinner. It's like a curved, spinny blade piece. Now we could choose to also chomp out pieces of here for the sake of the 3D printing. Also just in terms of the design, right? Like if you wanted to, say, get rid of a bunch of this space and just have that be like a cool part that's empty versus lighting up, it's a very easy thing to do. Yeah, let's just make a little shape. We'll do that. So we're going to go and make one more new sketch. We'll turn off the body for a second, and we'll pick top view. And from here, if this is our sort of reference, we're going to go create, and we're going to do another fit point spline. This time we're going to work in between pieces, and we're going to go and say here, 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 here. We're going to make sort of a flame kind of design. There we go. Cool. We're going to take this control point here, take the end of it and make it a little pointier. And we'll take this one and kind of pull that in, grab his point, and shrink that in so it's curved a little bit for us. Yeah, that's looking fun. Put that there. Alright, let's go here. So that. Drag that point up a little bit. Change the tangency here. So that's going to evoke. That's cool. I like that. Alright, now we're going to take this object. You've seen this before. We're going to go circular pattern, pick our center point again. We're going to say we want 5 of them. And then we'll just say finish sketch. We're going to turn back on our bodies and turn on our sketches so we see them. And we're just going to select this and say cutouts. And we're going to say extrude. This guy upper here. There we go. Turn off our base one. Just grab these. Now we could do some tricky fun. So the first thing we do is just go straight up, and that's just going to cut them out. So that just, I'll just hit OK so you can see it. And boom, we've now cut out that shape. And, you know, if we want to go tweak and adjust it, we can. But now we've got a pretty cool looking prop that's going to feel like it's got some motion and movement to it. Let's go back to our top here. There we go. Neat. That's going to print really well. And if we decide that we want to go and fillet this the other way, so here, we're going to go over to our fillet, and then we'll say again 3mm like we did everything else, so it curves kind of nice. We could also do, I think, probably about a 2mm fillet on the inner edge of that. Now it's kind of feeling like a little bit like a tire too, like a spinner and a wheel. And it works. And if we look back at our max size, we're still fine. And what I'm going to do is, if we assume that this is not really going to be our top, if this was going to be our top over here on this axis, we can just place our like little hook that I'm going to make as a place to hang this thing up, and that's going to be kind of in between those pieces of the 5. So we want it to be even in between, so let's find out where that spot is and make sure this is all going to fit. Or the easier way is, if we know that we still want this to be the top of our model, when we go to print it, we're just going to rotate it because we know we have this much space off the center. So watch. We're going to make another sketch. This time I'm going to go and turn off the bodies for a second. The reason I do that is because I want to be able to select the axis nice and clean, and then turn things back on so we can see what we're working. We'll turn on base, and then we have our new sketch, and we're going to call this hanger. We'll turn on our max size too. So if I go to the edge of my prop here, and I see how much space we've got, we have about 61 millimeters of space when we rotate that, which means if I go click right here and type 61, I know that this 61, everything up here is going to fit. So when we go to actually load this up into your slicer like Cura, you're just going to rotate it to the left until this is over here for printing. But we're going to work with it in our model up here. What I'm going to now do is go with, actually I probably even have a little more space, don't I? Oh, let's not be greedy with space. Let's grab that. Let's go with the offset. Let's do a -5 as well here. And then we're going to do a circle here that is 18. Should be good enough. And yeah, that should actually be about all we need. Let's just finish. Let's turn our regular models back on. We're going to select that. And I'm going to extrude that up. Not quite to the full length. So we're going to go up just the 5. Actually, let's just go to 7. Give us a little more thickness for hanging. But the nice piece is, if we now, what I like to do on these is fill it here, and sometimes I'll actually fill at the bottom of the hook piece. It prints fine. It just allows it to hang a little bit nicer. The other thing we're going to do is just for both aesthetics as well as strength. Those are both some kind of danger points in terms of design. So we're just going to go and smooth those out with an extra fillet. There we go. Yep, that'll print just fine. It's going to print a little bit nicer. And now, you can use just a standard eye hole, like an S-loop hook, or sorry, an S-hook, or a cup hook that you just hang this whole spinner right through there. If you want to make your own way of hanging this one, you're welcome to. Zip tie holes, I sometimes will go in, especially for cord management, and I will put little circle holes around the prop in order for cord management to play a role. But here, the nice thing is you can just hook these on right there, and you'll have a pretty cool spinning prop with an easy hook. And because we have this border here, this border is high enough to block the light from hitting this most of the time. If we want to go just in case, we can select it again here, and we can add another detail and put that up another 5 millimeters. And then definitely the light is just going to hit the edge of this and not show up on that. And now we have like a little two-tone effect, so you're going to get a little bit of an effect, a curve up, and then a two-tone. That's going to be cool. Actually, if we did like a 2 millimeter fillet on that, yeah, there we go. That's going to give a nice little multi-tier look. When we actually light this up, that's going to create a nice little rim effect. Makes me want to put something in the middle too, a little pentagon, because we got lots of 5s going on. So why don't we just add just a little decorative flourish to the middle. So we could make a new sketch. No reason not to. You can have as many sketches as you like in Fusion. So same verse, new sketch. This time we're going to turn everything, we're going to turn base on so we can see where we're working. We're going to go create a polygon, and we're going to do a inscribed edge polygon. We're going to pick the center, and we're going to come out to 9 millimeters, and we're going to say 9 millimeters on our size, and 5 on our number of edges, and then we want them to face the points of where we've just been making stuff. Enter. Did that actually make it, or did I think I just ended up making it like not existing there? So, but we know where we want it to be. Put our base back on. Create polygon inscribed there to there. And if we double click on it, maybe we can get back into it and make a change. Undo's your friend. So I'm hitting tab to switch between these modes, which does make my life a little bit easier. Notice I can also probably go a little bigger, because I'm going to do a couple of, go up and then, yeah, let's do it about there. Okay, cool. Turn our body back on. We'll turn our sketches on with our last sketch here, that. And I realized, is that going to clip those coming up? Yeah, it is. We should give ourselves a little bit more clearance here. So let's go back into our sketch. Turn off the body for a second. Now, if I do an offset, you'll see that offset doesn't like it because it's not a curve. So that's why we do end up having to go back here and select that to that for measure. So it's 10 right now. If I say 8, it just makes it smaller. So now we can go. It's one of the nice power moves of Fusion here. And it looks like we actually managed to, at some point in the process, end up with 2 bodies. So when did we do that? It's always been that way, I just didn't notice. Maybe you've been like looking at this all along saying, hey Brad, did you notice that you didn't actually join those? And I said, new body here, yeah, that should have been joined. So what I just realized was this whole time I've had 2 objects going when I should have just had 1. But I just fixed it by just changing that to a join. And we'll see as we step through whether that breaks anything else. Because you generally, just for 3D printing, want 1 body. Cool. Fixed. It's the nice thing with Fusion. Just roll back in history and just fix your problem like it never existed. All right. So now we're going to take our little pentagon right there. We're going to extrude it up. And instead of cut, we're going to say join. And we're just going to go up, let's say 15 millimeters, which is higher than you want it, or not higher than I want it, it's to the top edge of right there. But we're going to actually just apply some fun things to actually bring it a little bit lower in a moment. So we're going to say OK, select that. And we're going to go and do a chamfer instead of a fillet, which will let us actually make that a cooler shape. We're going to do that again and make this sort of like a gem. Chamfer. We can change this from equal distance to too distant. And what that lets us do is actually control separately as we go down. And then actually I'm going to go back to the first one, change that to too distance as well, and make that go down a little bit more and in a little more. So now if we look at it from our top view, it's a little high. Let's say 10. And then, because we just changed it so much, we actually ended up erasing the second feature that was actually used for that chamfer. So I'm going to raise it up a little bit, and that'll exist again. But now it's just telling me that the amount that I was moving it is too far. And go one by one. There we go. All right. Now we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times 5. This is a 25 pixel prop. At one point I think I said I was doing a 50 pixel prop. And I think that just would have been crazy at this scale. But, I mean, I guess technically right where we have these swooshes in here, we could have done those as more pixels and done a 10 around if we really wanted to. But you wouldn't be able to fit 10 around at this diameter. You would have to, do other things. But doable. But so you could do 4 of these on a 100 count string. This should print relatively easily and pretty quickly. And it should be able to print on a 220 millimeter bed. So I'm going to go now to go over to Tools, and I'm going to select the body right there. I'm also going to save. I'm going to say Make. Give it just a second. I'm going to turn off the Send to 3D Print Utility button here. So now we get a file. These are my custom version of the settings. Auto does work fine. I just like to have my curves be a little bit tighter. So you can see those settings I use right here. And this is like because there's so many curves. It's like 270,000 polys, which is fine. Most slicers can deal with that and will not care that much at all. And there's our mesh, and there's our hanger. So this will be a 8-inch, 25-pixel spinner with a convenient hook on the top to hang it up somewhere. And next we will actually print this. We'll set it up in xLights, and I think those will be their own videos. So thanks for joining me here for part 1 of making a holiday light show prop. Click like and subscribe, mash the buttons, join for more stuff. Brad 3D.